Hi class, how's it going? Welcome to our first social studies workshop called Comparing and Contrasting the American Colonies. Now you should be able to open it up in a couple ways. One, you can go to the agenda from September 10th, Thursday, head down to the bottom, it's that history workshop right down here. Or if you don't want to do that, you can head to the project briefcase, go underneath to project resources. It will just come up, grab this. And down at Project Resources, it should be in here, comparing and contrasting colonies. So you can access it in two ways. And when you open it up, it should look like this. When you do open it up, make a copy of it, share that copy with myself, Ms. Howard, and Mr. Morrill, as you know how to do since you are 11th graders. Now let's take a look at what you're going to be doing in this workshop. Once again, the objective is going to be responding to the question, how did the New England and Southern colonies compare and contrast in terms of geography, economics, labor systems, and social and political structure? So it seems like a lot, but you're going to have a lot of good resources to figure out an answer to these questions. First thing you'll do is the entry event. The entry event looks like this. You're going to take a look at a video on a movement that's going around in upstate New York, actually around the Binghamton area, where a bunch of people, in a significant amount, want to secede from New York State. They want to take upstate New York, branch it off from New York City and Long Island and all that downstate nonsense, and make a 51st state. And I'd like you to respond to it below. Do you believe the upstate New York should become its own state? Why or why not? And the purpose of this is I want you guys to take a look at some of the regional differences that our country even has today. And you can think about it, East Coast versus West Coast. There was that whole rap battle back in the 90s of who's better, the West Coast rappers or the East Coast rappers. I don't know the answer. That's up for you to decide. But even still, northern and southern states, there's still a rivalry there. Upstate versus downstate New York. These are just some examples of how these regional differences that we're going to be discussing in our workshop are still pertinent today. So after the entry event, you're going to take a look at the different tasks. Each task has a supporting question with it, and as you can imagine, each supporting question targets one of the things right up here. It's going to either target geography, economics, labor systems, or social and political structure. So for the first supporting question, it talks about geography and climate, and you're basically going to be taking a look at a couple maps and answering some questions on how did the northern and southern colonies differ in terms of geography, in terms of climate, and in terms of soil and growing season. You're going to answer some questions below. Don't mind the formatting. For some reason, this Google Doc isn't adhering to the format I set it, so just move this picture down decent ways. There we go. That's a lot better. So you're going to answer those questions in association with the maps above. So the second supporting question, how did these differences in geography and climate result in economic differences between the northern and southern colonies? So we're connecting it. So we're taking a look at the geography, how they differ in the northern and southern colonies, and relate it to the economics. You're going to take a look at two more maps that explain some of the major industries in the southern colonies and some of the major industries in the northern. And once again, you're going to answer some questions about them. In the third task, or for the third supporting question, you're going to be comparing the different labor that was used in these different economies that resulted from these differences in geography and climate. So you see kind of a trend, a connecting trend as we go through these supporting questions. You're going to take a look at a couple documents. One, Slavery is Capitalism, and two, excerpt from a New England Factory Owner Journal. And what we'd like you to do is respond to the question. Using evidence from both passages, answer the question, why did slavery develop rapidly in the southern colonies and not as much in the northern, or the New England colonies, as you'd like to call them? So think about that as you're reading these two passages and as you form a response to this task. And then the last one, a little separate, what major factors determine the social structure of society in colonial America? So we're taking a step back from the geography, the economics, and the labor used to support these economies, and we're looking at the social structure of the northern or the New England colonies and the southern colonies. And what you're going to do is you're going to read a couple passages again. Voting in Early America, an excerpt from that. That was an essay from the Williamsburg Foundation. And basically what it does is it lists all the factors that mattered when it came to deciding whether an American colonist could vote or couldn't vote in politics and in government decisions. And you're going to take a look at that, and there's a very, very small portion of the actual population that was allowed to. And they used a lot of factors that you're going to read about to decide whether someone was allowed to vote or not. So you're going to answer a couple questions about that. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to be basically looking at some documents, some maps, and some excerpts, answering some questions about them in response to the overall question of how the New England and Southern colonies compared and contrasted. So the next segment, well, first I'm going to give you time to work on that. When you're finished, go to the next segment of the video, and we'll go over this workshop.